Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do hope we can proceed in a better way. All of us, I hope we can learn from this. Certainly, I have a lot. Mr. Chair, several weeks ago, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans said it would be reinterpreting the regulations, defining what readily accessible means when it comes to frozen at sea spot prawns. And all of our offices in BC, and perhaps everyone here, heard from thousands of concerned constituents about how this would impact regional economies and the prawn industry in BC and Canada. So DFO has said it's, looking at awareness this year didn't resolve the problem, and we want to hear from the department and stakeholders on this, on how it impact them next year and in the future. So I'm moving that, pursuant to Standing Order 102, subsection 2, that the committee a study of at least 2 meetings. I don't think it would take more than that to understand the impact of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans reinterpretation of the Fisheries Act regulations affecting frozen at sea spot prawns, and that the committee call witnesses, including senior department officials from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans and interested stakeholder groups, to testify, and that the committee report its conclusions and recommendations to the House. And I don't believe that we need to undertake a long study, and that, again, 2-hour meetings would be sufficient to hear from witnesses on this.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. I believe, Mr. Arnold, you've raised your hand to speak to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate Mr. Johns bringing this to the attention of the committee, as we all know of the issue with the spot prawns. But it continues with unexpected announcements or decisions or changes in interpretation that are impacting harvesters right across the country. It's just we see it as an ongoing problem with the minister and the department of not consulting with the stakeholders, or the industry. It's just I think the spot prawn was the first one that really raised it to highlight to MPs' offices. I think we were all flooded by emails by that, but I don't know whether we could cover this in just 2 meetings, and I want to raise the attention of the committee that we have been postponing the study motions or motions for study that were on the docket long before this, that have a much broader scope. I think it's fine that it be on notice of motion to the committee, but to further postpone our study into the Pacific salmon, the illegal, unreported, and unregulated fisheries, the pinniped issue on both coasts, I think all of those have a much bigger impact on our overall fisheries in the country, and we keep getting sidelined into other I don't know whether you call them knee-jerk or reactionary studies by this in this committee, rather than focus on what the committee identified early on in the first session of this Parliament, and now in the second session, that as we got back underway after the proroguement, that we had priorities set out, and I don't think it behooves the committee to continuously change priorities because of what happens to be the issue of the day, because these issues of the day continue to pop up under this current regime. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold. Jaime.
Yes, and I'm in agreement with the study on the spot prawns, and I do believe there's an urgency to it, and I'd like to see it moved up. And I was wondering if Mr. Johns can speak to the urgency in this matter, because I do believe it's an important one that we need to look at right away.
Yeah, and well, first, I want to thank Mr. Arnold, because you're right. There's these issues that are constantly coming up, and the department's not explaining themselves. They're making knee-jerk decisions that are impacting people's lives. So people are out fishing right now, and some are afraid to go fishing. They're afraid that that just takes one officer that can enforce the reinterpretation of the rules, that can shut them down, and they're resistant in making further investments in future seasons. It could affect the market. There's lots of things that are coming into play right now, and there's obviously that the uncertainty is the big issue right now at play, and they want this addressed right away. And here we are. This would literally take 2 studies, I think, to get this flushed out, and hopefully the department will back down, and we can get them to commit to backing down. And that this doesn't just affect the prawn industry; it actually affects all different fishing industries. Because if you talk about reinterpreting the rules, and if they can't check frozen at sea prawns, which take 5 minutes to thaw out, I mean, how are they going to get a fish that's in the front of a hold on a boat and check that and inspect that? I mean, this could be over to other species. So I actually think this is something fairly serious that affects both coasts and a bunch of multi-fisheries. So I think we should get the government to get in front of the committee and explain themselves on this, reinterpretation of the rules, because it's going to end up transcending over to other fisheries as well. And we've got a lot of fishers concerned about it. So hopefully we can get this cleaned up quickly, and that's what we're hoping.